I just want to say I'm acknowledging every single physical thing that is happening. But what I'm also saying is ain't shit sweet. And that reaction that y'all have and that quick to go that y'all have is the reason that George Zimmerman exists, but Trayvon Martin
Wow.
doesn't. Is because we do not get as active. And I'm talking, when I say we, I'm talking about the leaders and protectors of my community. Y'all only get active with people who look like y'all. If you telling me for a fact that Asian and white men aren't more violent, inherently more violent than the black men in your community, I don't care if they are YN and they young. That's y'all fault. Y'all failed to raise them boys to be men. Since y'all leaders of the community, any YN that you see, I want you to look in the mirror and figure out what you could have done differently, because that's y'all responsibility. We birthed the babies, y'all raised them to be men. But with that being said, if you not gonna have that same smoke and that same energy for white men who are fucking you over days at a time, every second that the clock passes, and Asian men who don't give a fuck about you, take all the money out your community, put that shit back into their community in your face, and you know what you do? You go order orange chicken from them. You know what you do? You go buy wave grease and fucking do rags from them. I'll never see
Hey,
y'all have that same smoke. And
Danielle.
unless I see y'all have it, I'm not trying to hear what you got to say about black people at all. I'm not trying to hear it.
All right, let's go to no. Let's go to True Table.
I concur.
Wow. Okay. Kawel kind of touched on it, and I'll try to articulate myself best way I can. What I see, walk with me, is black women, I don't think has ever tried to exist in the world without identifying being black. There's a huge amount of ignorance that exists in our community. If you think that as a small subset of people in a country where you're dominated, that you don't have to align with certain levels of things in order to take upward mobility or infect change. See, there's this idea that we're dominating because we're black and we're loud and we're vibrant and we have style, but you're in a country that you need assistance. The very internet we're utilizing, the cars you drive, the jobs that you covet, you have to participate. And that's one thing I haven't heard about our community. We're a collaborative subset of American culture. Black women generally seem to covet the passionate side of things, but then say, like you said, Danielle, that you want to see energy come from us trying to fight the oppressor, which is foolish and ignorant, because in order for us to progress, we have to, first of all, understand the lay of the land. We have to understand the structure of law, and we have to have direction. And we have to be able to have civil discourse amongst each other. See, I don't see black men in mass parading nonsense on public forums. I seen Meg Thee Stallion do it though when Kamala was running for president of the United States. I don't see it in the same way. So the fact is that we're infighting. There's an inbreeding of sorts, but there's this foolish idea that we can somehow, some way, as a community, move forward without somehow participating with the dominant society. I don't see it.
I don't think you guys want to hear me. I think the panel might not like me very much.
I think that if it comes from a genuine place, like if you know the history.
Oh, it's definitely genuine. It's definitely genuine.
Right. But knowledge
would never troll.
Genuine.
I would never troll you, and I would never say something just to make people offended. Although people think I do say that, it's not true. I don't say things just to offend people on purpose.
Oh, sure.
But I was invited
I think you program us to look for it when you premise it. I don't think you want to hear what I'm going to say. And everybody's like,
I'm scared because I'm scared. McPherson,
no, speak your mind.
Everybody's like, when you get ready to say, when you say that, everybody get like, you know what I'm saying?
I know. You're right.
Just let it out. You know what I mean?
I'm just scared. I'm scared because as soon as because I know what I'm going to get is you're not black. You can't say that. But I'm here. And as an outsider looking in, I preface it with that. As an outsider looking in, I understand I'm not in me with my relationship with you, fine people, and then hearing what other cultures say, because I'll tell you guys what other cultures say, and I'll be honest with you, because who's going to stop me right now from saying it? I'll be honest with you guys. The majority of other cultures that I talk to say that black the Black peoples are just weak, whiny, lazy, criminal mind. As for the women are concerned, loose, easy, and that's just what a lot of them say. But the reason that they say that is because what they see is something that they don't know the history of the Black community, of course. They don't know the history. So they see it as people coming here and just seeing, oh, you guys have been here for many generations and you still haven't made something more of yourselves. When we come here and in 2 generations we dominate you guys, then we're the ones who are like your bosses. But I understand why. I do understand why. And I understand that because a lot of immigrant families, when they come, it's easier for them to get certain loans and so on and so forth. So I do understand that. I understand that there's history behind that as well. But what I'm saying is, after JR had showed me all the history and showed me a lot of the shows and so on, and then I studied for myself the history, I saw that Black people were so strong and so they made it. Out of slavery, they rose from the ashes and they did so much. And then you see what we have today. And what we have today is nothing compared to what I saw in the past generations of Black people. I think that's what Casey is talking about. And that's why when she was talking, I was nodding along, but I don't know if I should. But coming from my perspective as an outsider, when we see that Black people constantly today, not even back then, but today constantly say slavery, 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 and then they look for the roots to go all the way back to slavery, it's almost as if I want to ask you guys, what other community uses trauma that happened to their community from way back when? I mean, we have cultures today that have had traumatic events happen to them way more what is it called? Closer and closer to the present than slavery. Slavery 400 years ago. Here we have, or is it 400 years ago? How long was it? No, that was 200 years ago. And then it lasted 400 years, right? Lasted 400 years, stopped 200 years, about 200 years ago, or 100 something. But yeah. So when you see that, we see the Jewish people, of course, they have their thing that happened to them. Then you see the Slavic people who the word slave comes from Slavic people. And you don't see them saying like, we have this history of slavery, even though the word slave comes from the Slavic people. But you don't see them today saying that their culture has this slavery ingrained genetic code because they were slaves in the past. You don't see the Romans saying this thing. You don't see any other group of people saying that except Black people. So this is the reason why we see it as weakness, but it could be ignorance as well.
I'm gonna stop it there. Let's go to get Luis in there first, y'all, because he hasn't spoken in a while.
So I wasn't on that panel that week. I'm just catching wind of this now. So I would say this, that I believe she has been greatly misinformed, as many other people have been greatly misinformed. I believe that the public educational system does not do a good job to really talk about the magnitude of how this country was really founded in all the intricacies, right? There's just this high level of this happened, this happened, this happened, but nothing in great detail, right? And it's not only until you get to the collegiate level or you do your own personal, research and reading, or you have people that you're either in community or proximity to, that you have these kind of conversations, and you end up learning a lot more than what has been taught to you or has been told to you from a young age, right? And sort of, I believe that people who come here have a script that's already been given to them. There's already a script that's already given to them of ideals and things, but not understanding that there's just a greater story behind that. There's a greater story of invention. There's a greater story of innovation. There's a great story of community that has been destroyed in the past, through bigotry, racism, and through a number of other institutional factors. And that has been redacted from the conversations that most people internationally who migrate here do not know and are not privy to. It's only through these kinds of conversations and through other outlets that they begin to learn. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm constantly always learning. And one of the things that I ended up learning once I got to like college and stuff like that was like, this is an entire history of people. Even when I took architecture history, there was a lot of black architects that they never highlighted or talked about. You know what I'm saying? Especially the 20th century, coming out of California, right? There was a lot of great builders in that time, and they never talked about it within that context. But it's only when you step out of the prescribed curriculum you start to learn and start to see behind what's the veil available. And I think that's done on purpose. And I understand the credence that Danielle was given earlier about that. I think it's done intentional, but I also think that if you're trying to understand people and you want to get to know them genuinely, I think you got to go a little bit further than what is sold to you, right? Because it's hard for me to say that I love black people and I love black culture, but I don't do anything to go beyond what the surface level is in terms of my research, understanding, reading, comprehension, and just overall historical pedigree, right? In terms of the plight that black people in America have gone through, right? I think it would be such a disservice, but yet in school you talk about everything from the Franco-Prussian War all the way to the Jewish Holocaust, and those things are pushed heavier. But the things here have a much greater story, but most people miss it because it's not something that is, pushed to the forefront. There's sort of like the stains that America is trying to wipe away. But I understand why we're always constantly bringing it up. It's for them, it's not for them. Let me correct myself. Black people are trying to make sure that America and the world understands that they're not forgotten, no different than how the Jewish people told the world never again. And sort of, I think it's very important to understand that we see current events even around the world, especially what's happening in Palestine. Do not ever get comfortable with watching people be massacred, because one day that switch and that focus could be on another set of group, and you could be part of that. And sort of this is why challenging the status quo is always very important. And I know these conversations get contentious because people who are not well versed or educated get very triggered very easily because they can't participate at a higher level. And that's what's missing. Are you?